Hey everybody, it's Rachel. Welcome back to the channel. I'm glad you're here. Grab some coffee and pull up a chair. Today we are going to talk about people pleasing, or more accurately, what happens when you stop caring so much about pleasing everyone else and finally start becoming who you really are. You know what happens when you stop trying to please everyone? Well, first people get really annoyed. Turns out when you stop being everyone's doormat, they miss the doormat, and they realize they've got to go find someone else to walk all over. But here's the other side of that coin. When you stop living your life for everyone else, you start reclaiming your time, your energy, and your sanity. And that is when things get good, my friend. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." Now, sounds like it'd be really beautiful on a throw pillow, right? But the truth is, getting there, it's hard, it's messy, uncomfortable, and sometimes it takes something dramatic to wake you up. For me, that something was cancer, unfortunately. But the best part though, you don't need something dramatic or even age to realize this. You can make this shift simply by deciding that you are not going to carry everyone else's expectations anymore. You know, I have always been the type of person who carried other people's emotions. If you were upset, I felt it. If you were in pain, I could take it home with me, and I thought about it for hours. And working from my house as a massage therapist, that meant I never actually left work. Not mentally, not emotionally, or physically. I would be done with a client, but their stress, their energy, everything, it stayed with me. And some people, let's be real, are draining. Energy vampires, if you will. They didn't just want their shoulders loosened up. They wanted a therapist too, without the degree or the paycheck. And I gave it to them because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. I mean, have you ever noticed that some people's presence feels like sitting in the sunshine and others feel like a storm cloud that just parks itself over your house for days? I let those storm clouds move right in, rent-free. When you are sensitive to other people's moods, you start believing that it's your job to fix them, to help them. You think, if I can just make them happy, then I'll be happy. But here's the catch. People who feed on your energy and your kindness never get full. And it wasn't just clients, When my kids were little, I volunteered a lot. I thought that's what I was supposed to do because they asked and my schedule was flexible. At school, I was the AR, or advanced reader mom. I chaperoned field trips. I helped with class parties, even when I didn't want to be that mom all the time. At church, I taught a religion class. I served on a board. I volunteered at events. And why? It wasn't because I believed wholeheartedly in what I was teaching or doing. As a matter of fact, I hated it, and I took issue with a lot of the teachings and the doctrines. But my parents wanted me to do it, so I said yes to whatever when I would get that phone call asking. But you know what? So much of my saying yes really wasn't about what I wanted. It was what other people would think of me, or what would make other people happy. And when that kind of pattern starts to take over your life and your attitude, that's when it becomes a real problem. I think that's what happens to a lot of us. We say yes before we even pause to ask ourselves, do I really want to do this? Do I believe in this? Or am I just trying to avoid guilt and keep everyone else happy? If someone needed something, I raised my hand before I even thought about it. I was probably the worst kind of people pleaser. Maybe we're all like this, but I would complain about it before and after the fact. I was miserable, and I was making people around me miserable. But saying no just wasn't in my vocabulary, and when it finally was in my vocabulary, I still said yes, out of guilt. The thing about guilt, though, I don't think it's proof that you're doing something wrong all the time. Sometimes it's just proof that you are breaking a habit. For years, I bent over backward for people with any job that I had, but especially as a massage therapist. I would squeeze people in when my schedule was already full. Since I worked from home, I felt like I had to. I accommodated their schedules over my own. I spent extra time working on them, and I never charged for that time because I felt guilty if I didn't fix them. But when I was diagnosed with cancer, some of those people that I poured myself into for years disappeared. Never heard from them, except maybe to ask when I was coming back to work. And let me tell you, that was a total slap in the face. Now, don't get me wrong, there are still some of those people that I am in touch with regularly. Dear friends, actually. But a lot of them, never heard from them. And you know what? That's okay, because it taught me something valuable. That is when I realized that I had given so much of myself away. My time, my energy, my health. For what? Now, I'm sure people appreciated it at the time, but when I couldn't do it anymore, they were done. They were showing up for what I could give them. Do I blame them? No, not really. I'm sure I've done the same thing to people. But that's when I decided I was going to stop, I stopped saying yes when I meant no. I stopped carrying everyone else's emotional baggage like it was my job. And I stopped trying to fix people who didn't actually want to do the work themselves. And I started enforcing my own boundaries. And you know what? It was the most satisfying, liberating thing I have ever done. When I stopped people-pleasing, I didn't just get my free time back. I got my peace back. I was calmer, less stressed, and I finally had space to breathe. I wasn't dragging other people's problems home with me anymore, or stretching myself so thin that I had nothing left for the people I loved the most. And that shift changed everything. Now, I love helping people. I always have. Obviously, I was a massage therapist for over 20 years. But I don't do it anymore at the expense of my health and my happiness. Not at the expense of stressing myself out or stealing time from my family. Not anymore. That was the line I learned to draw. And once I did, everything shifted. Because I still get to help people now. I just do it on my terms. And that simple change has brought so much calm and peace into my life. The deeper truth about people-pleasing is that it feels like generosity and helpfulness, but I don't think it really is. It's more like self-erasure dressed up as kindness. It doesn't usually bring happiness, not for you anyway, and it's not serving you. So much of the time it makes you resentful, exhausted, and pretty crabby. And if you are fake smiling through your yes, no one is really getting the best version of you. Now, I know that some people genuinely need to be needed, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with that until it starts consuming you. The danger is when your entire identity gets built on being the reliable one, the fixer, the helper, the rescuer. Because what happens the day you can't show up? Who are you then? And while we usually think of women as the default people pleasers, men do it too. They just package it differently. Sometimes it's about avoiding conflict. Sometimes it's wanting approval. And sometimes they convince themselves they're just being nice. But underneath it, for any of us, it's usually just about validation. Trying to prove our worth by keeping everyone else comfortable and happy. And the cost, it's real. Your relationships get lopsided. Resentment builds. And underneath that smile, the bitterness starts stacking up like dirty dishes in the sink. And when your whole sense of worth depends on keeping the peace or making everyone else happy, you slowly lose sight of who you actually are and what you want. That is why Jung's quote hits so hard. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. You don't get there by disappearing into other people's needs. You get there when you can love, help, and show up on your terms. But what happens when you stop? When you stop trying to please everybody or saying yes to everything? Or you just stop trying to be helpful all the time? Well, like I said, some people will get mad. They'll call you selfish. They'll disappear. They'll miss the version of you that bent over backward to make their life easier. But the people who really care about you, they will adjust. They'll love you for who you actually are, not for what you do for them. And let me be clear, I am not telling you to be a selfish, self-centered ass. That is not what this is about. What we're talking about here is balance. I have said it several times, and I finally started believing it. Taking care of yourself isn't selfish, it's practical. An empty vessel has nothing to offer. So here are a few things to remember. Saying no is not cruel, it's honest. And honesty builds stronger relationships than silent resentment ever will. And boundaries are a form of love, not just for yourself, but for everyone around you. When you set them, people know exactly where they stand. And finally, not everyone deserves access to your energy. Save it for the people who add to your life, not the ones who drain it. And yes, the discomfort is temporary, I promise. People might not like the new you at first. Some will never like it, but that is their problem, not yours. So ask yourself, how much of your life have you given away just to keep the peace? How many yeses are stacked on your back, weighing you down, when you knew in your gut you wanted to say no? And more importantly, what would change if you started saying yes only when you truly meant it? Jung was right. Finally being who you truly are is absolutely the privilege of a lifetime. But sometimes it only comes after you have lost the version of yourself that struggled to keep everyone else happy. Again, for me, it took something dramatic. But I don't want you to wait for your wake-up call. You can decide today. So if you are tired, drained, if you feel like you're carrying everyone else's problems on your back, maybe it's time. Time to let some of that go. Time to stop being the doormat. If people want that, Walmart sells them pretty cheap. I, myself, have retired from that job. Maybe you should too. Thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts. As always, take care of you, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.